Hey there, sewing friends! Welcome back to another machine unboxing and review with Emporium Threads. Today we're going to be exploring the Juki TL-2010Q. So this video today is going to be going over this Juki machine. It's considered a semi-industrial machine. We're going to unbox it, we're going to review it, and we're going to put it under a little bit of pressure with some materials that we would normally use for bag making to see how it handles. First up, let's grab this big box. It is quite the heavy box. I think it's probably about 40 pounds. Let's get it up here on the table and then let's cut her open and see what's inside. Here is the box for this bad boy. It is quite large in size, as we can see. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a knife here. We're gonna cut it open. We've got warranty and manual, always good to have. Okay, so right off the bat here inside the box, of course we've got styrofoam, and I see right here on top our piece for our knee lift. So we'll set this aside. Whew. Got it out of the box. Now just need to get the machine out of the styrofoam here gently. I did have the power cord. I located that here in this cubby. It's packed kind of like this, and I didn't see that down in there. So the way they pack it, definitely well packed, but lots of little things here in these nooks and crannies that you don't notice at first. So let's see if we can ever so gently pry this open and get it out. The handle's located right here, so I'm just gonna hold the handle up so that when I pull the styrofoam out from under the machine, it doesn't go rocketing forward. Okay, here we are. One piece. Second piece out of the way. All right, I have lowered you down just a little bit so you can get a better view of the machine, which is what we're here to look at anyway. So, obviously we've got protective plastic on the machine. That's great. So let's open that up and see what we're working with here. All right. Plastic out of the way. We've got a little bit of packaging material here on the back, some foam. We'll just get that out of the way. So first things first, I think I already said this. I'm still a little winded. This machine, though, you know, compact-ish in size, it is heavy. Oh my word. So much more heavy than the other machines that I've recently been reviewing. So that bodes well for it as far as construction of, you know, probable all metal pieces. From first glance, obviously, I'm looking at the back. We have the Juki logo actually facing me here on the back, which is really nice. Just, you know, kind of gives it an element of, you know, I don't know, good quality. They want to put their name all over it. That's a thing that strikes me as interesting. We also have the name printed here on the front. We've also got this really nice kind of, it's like a plaque almost, I would say, like a resin or acrylic plaque that picks up light. It's see-through on the front of the machine here. That's really nice. We have our handle here, which instead of just folding back like a lot of them, this one actually retracts into the machine, and it's an, you know, partially metal and partially plastic handle. So that seems pretty nice as well. We've got lots of key features here. Power switches located here on the side, along with our ports for our power cord and our foot pedal. We have our wheel here, our hand crank wheel. And then we've also got our little telescoping rod here for the thread stand back here. This thread stand looks really nicely sized. It's very deep, so it would appear as though we can get a large spool on the back. We'll test that here in a little bit. Right here we have our bobbin winder, and then we've got some various little apparatuses here for keeping our tension. This one probably goes with the bobbin winder, but it might also be part of the upper thread tension discs and things. We have also part of our threading apparatus here, This one here, interestingly enough, we've got a tension disc right here, and we've got a tension disc here. So this one's gonna be very similar actually to like my industrial. Some of the other semi-industrials don't have this particular little additional set of tension discs right here. They sometimes only have this one, so that's kind of interesting. We also we've got a check spring, pretty normal. We've got automatic needle threader here. We've got a compensating foot right here. Glancing at the throat plate here, it would appear that we've got quite a number of seam allowances etched into the plate, both in imperial and metric, so that's nice. We've got our bobbin cover here, which is not two pieces here to the side, it is one continuous piece. So we have a small door here that covers the side, but it's actually attached on one hinge here to this additional part of the throat plate. So a little bit different. Over here, we've got a little bit of packing material that I will take off. This is protection, it looks like, for a few of these little knobs we've got here. So we've got our automatic thread cutter. We've got our needle down or up position button. We've also got our reverse lever here. We have a lever here for our feed dogs. Interestingly enough, I did not know that this machine had this, but that's very exciting to me. We have a speed control here on the side. So in addition to controlling speed with our foot pedal, we can also control our speed right here at the top of the machine. I very much value this feature. On a lot of industrial machines, it's known as a servo motor. A servo motor is one that has this additional control right here, or somewhere on the machine. And basically what it means is you can kind of dumb the machine down or turn it all the way up so that when you put your foot on that presser pedal, you have a secondary kind of backup, right? So I can turn this all the way down to the lowest speed. And then if I put my foot all the way down on that presser foot, I'm not just gonna take off like a rocket. I'm limited by the speed that I've set here on the machine. And I know some people are not really a fan. I know other people really value this feature. I am one of those people, I value this feature. I sew a lot when I'm very tired or when I've just been working a long day, sewing a lot, and I really like having this as my safety net. When I am sewing and, I accidentally put my foot down a little bit too hard, that's when mistakes might happen. So I think that we've kind of covered almost everything that's here on the front of the machine. The last thing here is just our knob to control our stitch length. That's what this guy is going to be for. And then we also have one more control right here. This guy with the knob here up on top, this is going to be to control our presser foot pressure. So the last thing here is going to be your tension knob on the front. This one's just going to be your general tension. So that's kind of my good guesses for just unboxing this and all the features to go over here. I don't see anything additional. I'm going to take a quick peek here underneath. I do not see additional lights on this machine, which is one thing I really wish this had. I only see one light here. I'm hoping when we get it all fired up, it'll be nice and bright. There also appears to be an access door here on the side, interestingly enough. Quick access to change our blade out, which is really handy. And then we also are able to get into a few other bits and bobs of the machine here. So that's also very interesting. The last thing, which you cannot see, but it is here on the back, we have a lever to lift our presser foot located right here behind this main portion of the assembly. We will be trying out a little bit later the knee lift. So here is that piece for the knee lift. There should be a hole somewhere here on the front of the machine. Looks like it's right about here, almost out of view of the camera right there, where we insert this rod for the knee lift. In comparing this to the Brother machine that I mentioned earlier, this knee lift looks like it's a little bit more refined. It looks a little bit nicer perhaps, but we'll have to test that and see if that's actually the case when we're using it. The Brother machine is all metal and simply just a bent rod, whereas this one has the nice plastic area closed off here on the bottom. This is the part you actually push your knee up against. So that just seems a little bit nicer to me. Before we move on to any more of the things in this unboxing, I would just like to mention that the Brother machine, the PQ1500SL, came in right at about $800 before any tax, shipping, or anything additional was added to the price. But about $800 starting before all those fees. This particular machine comes in at $999 prior to any of those fees. So I'll be really interested to see if for the bit of additional money, this machine really is worth it, or if the Brother is going to be a better option as far as semi-industrial machines go. So I'm just sorting through some of the accessories from the box. Before we lay everything out of the small accessories that come in this pouch, let's look at the big accessories. First off, we have our power cord, of course, pretty necessary. We also have our foot pedal. I really like that the foot pedal cord winds up very nicely underneath this. That's a really great feature, especially for those of you who travel with your machine or you're limited on storage space. This pedal feels really nice, very springy, and I do like the small rubber area here, although I do wish that the entire top portion was coated in this rubber material. This feels really nice. Down here feels like it might be a little bit slick. If that's something I discovered I didn't like, I could always add some grip tape or something else here, but it'd be really nice to see this material covering the entire foot pedal. Set these aside. Other big accessories are going to be this guy, which I think is our cover. The Brother machine that I recently reviewed also had one of these, and I'm not sure how common they are, but they're not very common for domestic machines, and I really like the idea of this collapsible cover that goes right over the machine to keep it free from dust and debris. These covers are much easier to store because they collapse and you could put them under almost anything. They give you a hole here in the top so that you can access your handle and still carry the machine if you'd like. And my guess is this piece that is here in our cardboard box is going to be the extension table, but let's cut it open and find out. And that's exactly what it is. So right off the bat, made out of plastic, not a problem. It is definitely a shiny material, as you can see. I wonder if that's going to cause any kind of vinyl sticking issues or anything like that. Glancing at the back of it, I do notice a couple of things that I really like about it. It's got a ton of feet. One of my complaints about the Brother PQ1500SL was that it did not have enough feet on the back of it, so the table flexed and was very flimsy. I really did not care for that design at all. This looks like it's going to be a much more stable, much more solid surface to work on. So I'm very happy to see that there are more feet on this extension table. Let's take a peek at what comes in this accessory pouch. So the first thing here that I'm not in love with, I just dumped all of this out. There is a bottle of oil here for the machine. However, it appears to be leaking. Everything within this bag is quite oily. So I don't love that. I think this is supposed to be sealed, perhaps melted on the top, and it looks like maybe the plug that they put in here has come out because there is just oil everywhere. So we'll grab a rag and keep that handy, so we can wipe all of this up. So first thing we have in here is a small packet of needles. I believe this feels like a multi-pack, but it's not labeled and I can't exactly tell how many are in there. If I had to guess, it feels like about 3. Our manual might tell us what comes in this packet. I was able to locate a page in the manual that tells us everything that comes within this packet, so we can use this list to go through so we comprehensively know exactly what they've included for us. So it does list the packet of needles, however, it does not exactly tell us what type of needle, and it looks like it's just a single needle in here. We've got 4 bobbins here. We have a flathead screwdriver specific for the machine. We've got the exclusive screwdriver. Looks like it's a bit of a multi-tool. There are multiple ends on here that all fit different things. A spool cap. We have the walking foot here, which they refer to as the upper feed presser foot, but this is just a walking foot. Wipe my hand off because it's quite oily. We've got a small cleaning brush and little tool on the end here, just for basic maintenance of the machine. This would be the cap that is supposed to be on this oil. This here in the bag is the 1/4 inch quilting foot. And this here is going to be the zipper foot. So I will say this about this machine compared to others I've reviewed, there's not a ton that's included here in the accessories. It seems like they really focused more on the machine and possibly the quality and features here and gave you a little bit less when it comes to all of the accessories. Not necessarily a bad thing, you can buy your own accessories that you would like. This is a good start, however, there are really just not a lot of feet or anything here, so be aware that not only is this machine a little bit more expensive, but you're going to end up spending more money on some additional feet if what you need is not included here with the machine. Let's take this over to the desk, get it all set up, fire it up, and see what it sews like. All right, I've got this machine all set up here. It's plugged in, but I have not yet turned it on. So let's see what it looks like when we fire it up. So, not any motion or noise when we fire it up. Pretty normal for a semi-industrial machine. They have this set with the needle down upon arrival. So we'll go ahead and just hand crank that all the way up. Get our little checkpoint here all the way up to its highest point. Get our needle all the way up. We've got the compensating foot here right now, and that's what I would leave for this test initially to just see what it's like. I'm going to check the bottom bobbin case. There is another bobbin in here, however, there is no thread on it. The machine does appear to be well oiled, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and click our needle down button, and it moved down, and it responded and moved back up. We've got our thread cutter here. It's set on a 2mm stitch length right now. We're going to turn it up to about, not quite a 4, but almost a 4. The first thing I'm going to try to figure out how to do using my manual, of course, is wind a bobbin. That's the first thing we have to do upon setup. And then after that, we're going to try to figure out our tension. For this initial test, I'm going to be using a Tex 45 weight thread. This is a bonded polyester thread, and it is from Saya Swag in the color Apple Cinnamon Red. I used this on a previous test, so I'm really just trying to compare apples to apples as much as possible, and I'd like to see if this machine will happily handle this thread in both the bobbin area and up on top. So let's wind a bobbin with this now. So obviously before we can sew, we're going to try to wind a bobbin. I have gone ahead and pulled out my manual that I have sitting to the side here. It's got all of the instructions on how to wind a bobbin. I'm going to attempt to use this bonded polyester Tex 45 thread in the bobbin and on top of the machine. I want to feed it through both and I want to see how it handles it. Some of the industrial machines, the semi-industrial machines rather, are not particularly fond of having a thicker thread in the bobbin, and I'd like to see how this one handles that. So I'm going to go ahead and install this cone. I'm going to use the provided adapter here up on top. This is to fit the larger base of these cones. And it does fit here really nicely. So we go ahead and we tuck into this channel here on our spool stand. And we're going to go ahead and try threading this through the hole on the bottom of the bobbin stand here. There are directions in the manual for this. It gives you two options for winding a bobbin, and when I kind of tried to figure it out before, the bobbin thread continued to slip out of the little disc that's up here. So it suggests that if you are having that problem, go ahead and pass the thread through this hole first, and then go ahead and thread it. So what we do is we loop around, we loop through the back here, and then we go ahead and loop around this little tension disc and we pop right underneath it. And then it looks like we come out this way. And so then what we're going to go ahead and do is take our bobbin, we thread up through the bobbin through either one of these channels. There's a channel on either side. And then we go ahead and set it on the winder peg. And we're going to kind of feel around until we feel a click. There we go. Oh. We're looking for that little click. There's a peg, a small peg on this bobbin winder peg that fits within the little hole on the bobbin. So we're basically just looking for that, feeling around for it. And now that we've got it, we're going to push this lever into position. We're going to hold on to this tail and we're going to gently press on our presser foot, and we're going to wind a bobbin. I'm going to cut this tail off, and we're going to continue to wind and see if it stops itself or what it decides to do. So it did stop itself. I am still pressing on the presser foot. However, it has got enough pressure on this lever. It doesn't pop itself out of this gear. However, it still at least knows to stop itself. So that's nice. So we'll go ahead and hold our bobbin, hold it with this side, and I'm going to clip this off, click this out of position, and then I can take my bobbin off. It did a fairly decent job winding this bobbin. Typically you can adjust this by changing the, there's a screw here and you can change the angle at which this is sitting up against the bobbin. And we may need to do that because I don't know if you can see this, but the bobbin is winding much higher on one side than on the other side. And for some machines, that's a bit of a problem. It really wants that to be even. So I don't love that, but we're going to try it out anyway this way and see if this machine cares or not. So I'm going to hold on to this for a moment and figure out how to position this in the bobbin case correctly. All right, in the manual here, it gives us some fairly detailed pictures. It wants our thread coming out of the back of the bobbin. So if you're looking at it, it'll look like the letter P this way. So the thread tail coming out of the back, winding around this way, counterclockwise. Letter P. And then it's showing us to hold our bobbin case just like this from in the left hand. We've got our little notch here for the bobbin case, and it wants us to just insert exactly like this. And then we're going to pull our bobbin thread through the channel and then underneath the little catch spring, the latch spring right there, and out the hole, and that should be correct. So now we'll lift the door here, lift everything on the side, and it's one piece, so this comes right with it. And we're going to position our notch on the bobbin case here, this chunk that's out of it, underneath our thumb. I like to hold mine just like this with my thumb on the notch so I can feel, and we're going to press this into our case. And it's asking us to lift the lever on the bobbin case. when we insert it. So there's a small lever here on the side. I'll pull this out real quick. There is a lever here on this bobbin case. On this particular bobbin, it comes out quite far, and it actually stays open on this bobbin case. So that's not, it's not abnormal, but that's not common. Usually they just kind of spring just a little bit forward. This one actually wants to come all the way out in a 90 degrees, so we kind of use it like a handle. So it appears that when we engage this little handle, when we pull this out, it actually holds the bobbin into place for us, which is really nice. So we're going to use that little handle. We're going to put this into place. And then if you just tap that little handle, it all clicks right in, shuts, the little handle shuts right on the bobbin case, and then it's all inserted in. Very good. So that's taken care of. It does tell us, it actually gives us a guide right here. What I was mentioning about the spool, not winding, I was mentioning the bobbin winder, not winding the bobbin evenly. It actually gives you a guide here for if it's thicker on the bottom or thicker on the top, which direction it's actually winding. And it gives you directions on how to fix that, because ultimately you really want good even thread when it's wound on the bobbin. We're going to try this bobbin anyway, but if we run into a problem, I will follow these directions and go ahead and rewind it. But for the purposes of this, I'm hoping this bobbin will be sufficient just to get us through here. But they do give us some directions on how to correct that with pictures, which is really nice. So far, I'm very happy with the way this manual is written. Anybody who's picking up this machine offline or at a dealer can very easily teach themselves how to work this machine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and thread the top portion of the machine now. We've already done the bobbin. What we're going to do first, we come straight from our thread area up here where our cone is held. We're going to keep where we were when we wound our bobbin, so we're going to be just tucked into that second channel on the stand, and then we're going to go ahead and go directly down into this first hole, make our little loop-de-loop here and skip that middle hole. And so we should be going just like that, down through this hole, down through this hole. So we're going to go through this first set of tension discs here, making sure to get all the way in there. Very important for this step that our foot is all the way up so we can get in between these tension discs. We're then going to go around this check spring, so we should be able to pull the spring there. Underneath this hook, I'm going to go within this hook here, and then we're going to tuck into the hole here, or you can actually just pull over on this machine and loop right through the top. Back into this set of guides again. We have a thread guide here on top we're going to tuck into, and then we have an additional thread guide there as well at the top of the needle bar area. So then we have our automatic needle threader. There's a lever right here for our finger. And as long as we're in all of the thread guides, we'll pull some thread through. We're actually going to lower the foot to use this. You'll want to make sure that your needle is in the all the way up position, so all the way at its top position here, and it is. And what you do is actually just press this lever down and the entire assembly swings over, all on its own. When it does that, if it's at the right position, the needle eye meets up with the hook here inside of these guides. You go ahead and just thread your thread underneath the hook in here, and then you go ahead and pull and let go. Now, this needle that came with the machine has an incredibly tiny eye. It does not want to have the thread pulled through here in a loop with the hook. I don't happen to have any needles on hand for this machine except the ones that came with it, and they unfortunately have a very small eye. So I can hand thread this by myself, and that's what I'll be doing in order to test the machine. But that is one thing about this particular needle that it just did not want to go in the few times that I tried. What I will say about this mechanism for threading, this is an incredibly nice automatic needle threader. The design seems to work very well. I really like the way that it works. Their directions are also pretty clear, and I didn't have to do any kind of weird finagling or figuring out my own way of having to use this needle threader. It works exactly as it is intended and how it was designed. per the instructions in the book. And that is not always the case with needle threaders. Even my Husqvarna Vikings, they have very nice needle threaders, but you actually have to hold the thread on your thumbnail a little bit off to the side in order to get it to work correctly, and that's not how they were intended to be used and designed. If you know that little trick, it makes it work flawlessly, but if you didn't, it's just kind of one of those things. Oftentimes these needle threaders have really, it's a great idea, but it just doesn't work all that well. So now that we're threaded on the top and we're threaded in our bobbin, we're going to go ahead and get some scrap material. I have some plain marine vinyl here, and we're just going to go ahead and try to sew a straight line. I'll lift my presser foot and see what it does. An interesting feature on this machine that I discovered while reading the manual is that not only can you cut the thread using this button over here on the side panel with the scissors on it, it comes with the pedal that can cut the thread if you press back on the pedal. So if you push forward with your toes, with the front of your foot, that is your speed for the machine, that is your power control. But if you actually push back with your heel, it will prop up the foot and it will cut the threads, as you just saw me do. Now, it seemed to drop the foot awfully quickly, so I wasn't able to move my project out from under. On the industrial machines, if you hold the lever to cut, it actually keeps the foot raised up. That does not appear to be the case on this particular machine, so I'm not sure how much I'm really gonna like that feature. So this is one layer of marine vinyl, having not messed with the tension at all. And I think the tension is pretty good. It's a little wobbly on the bottom side, but it's not horrible. So I think that we could tighten up this tension just a little bit. It is currently set at just above a 2. It was just below a 2. So let's see what kind of an improvement that makes. I still have just a little bit of wobbliness here in the stitches. It's not a not straight line, but I'm not loving that tension on the bottom. Tension on the top looks great. So we're going to go ahead and further tighten this top tension, and I might actually tighten this tension just a tiny bit as well and see what that does. I am still not super thrilled with that tension, so I think that's going to take quite a bit more finessing and finagling to get that to work. I definitely don't think it's terrible, but I'm starting to see a little bit of wonkiness in the top threading here as well. So I think we're going to just need to further dial it in and mess with it a bit. And obviously each machine is a little bit different than the other, even amongst the same exact machine. So one of this brand and this type might be a little bit different than another one. They all kind of have a little bit different timing and whatnot. So we'll just keep trying. Now I do notice I must be having some kind of a bobbin issue here because I've got 3 threads. So something likely happened when I was cutting the thread. So let's go ahead and pull this out. We definitely have extra thread here wrapped around our assembly somehow in the bottom, so we'll need to investigate that. Here's the culprit right here. Let's try that once more and see if it's better. So one thing I notice about this machine is you absolutely have to make sure that it is stopping at the highest point here, and otherwise you're going to end up with it getting caught on the bobbin every single time. Let's try that one more time. There we go. That time it rotated all the way through because I was hand cranking it. I was thinking it was stopping midway, but it wasn't. It was because I was hand cranking it and not getting it all the way to where I needed it to be in order to lift it off the machine. So I'm okay with that tension. I don't think it's the best. I don't think it's the worst. I do see that the top still could be tightened just a little bit, but we could be here all day while I'm fiddling with this tension. And frankly, it's really just going to depend on what material you're using. Obviously, the thread has some to do with it. We'll try 2 layers of marine vinyl now and see how it does with that. Tension on the top still wants to be tighter. I'm getting a lot of show through of thread toward the bottom from the top. And I may need to change the bobbin case tension as well in order to balance out for this thicker thread. Slowly but surely, it is getting better. And I am impressed with the stitches on this machine. I am using this in the slowest setting. So I've got it turned all the way to the bottom of the turtle here. That tension at this stage looks pretty good, and that's going through just 2 layers of marine vinyl. So let's fold it over and see how we do with a 4th layer. I don't hear any strain from the motor or really any difference in the machine. I don't feel any difference in it either. Foot clearance seems good. I'm able to feed these 4 layers of marine vinyl underneath here with no problem and no resistance. Tension still seems well on 4 layers also. So far I am really happy with that. Just for grins, because I happen to have it within reaching distance. Let's try a piece of real leather. Let's double it over and let's just see what happens. This is probably a 4-ounce leather, so we've got 2 layers of a 4-ounce. This is definitely a chrome tan leather. I did hear just a small bit of hesitancy from the machine, but it made it through perfectly fine. And the stitching actually looks really good. I'm actually quite impressed by that. For not even having a leather needle in this machine, for not using anything special, this leather's not skived. That's just me doubling over a piece of leather and sewing it. And the tension looks good on the stitches as well. So I'm actually rather impressed by that. Let's get the knee lift and the extension table on here and see how those do. So really interesting design on this one. It's got support feet all the way around it, all the way to the outer edges, all the way back here and here in the front, which I like because as I rest my wrists here on it and my project, it doesn't shift. If you watch the Brother video that I've been kind of comparing this machine to, the machine literally only had 2 feet on it and 1 peg that inserted into the machine in this area. And so when you pressed on it here, the entire thing would kind of move a little bit and it just really needed some extra support. This particular machine has so many feet on its extension table. I find that very interesting, but more interesting still is that there is no peg or any kind of anything inserted into this machine to hold this on. It is purely pressure fit with some small rubber feet here at the back and here at the front that just glide along the side of the machine and kind of compress and give it a little bit of tension. So I find that very interesting. I don't know if through an entire day of working, perhaps you might end up having some shifting in this table. Really going to depend on how, steady it holds. We have our bobbin access here on the table, which is nice, but it is a little bit stiff, a little hard to open, and the door doesn't necessarily want to stay open. It kind of starts to flop forward a little bit because it's not actually on a hinge. This is just a bent piece of plastic here that's a little bit thinner, kind of acting as a hinge. It's not on an actual hinge. So quality-wise, I'm not terribly impressed with that, but we still have our bobbin access here. So the next thing I will comment on, because this is something that I really look for, there's only one light. It's here toward the outside, and that kind of ends up leaving this entire side of the throat plate where all of our stitch length markings are. Our seam allowance markings. They're in shadow, and I don't love that. I really wish that there was a secondary light here or one up here anywhere. Now you could add your own, but I really just don't like having to tack on a secondary set of lights and power that and do all of those things. So I am a little bit disappointed in that. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. It's not a deal breaker on the machine, but if you have eyesight issues and you're really wanting a nice bright throat space area, you can see how many shadows are here on this side just because of all of these needle threader mechanisms being in the way, and then where this light is positioned within the machine. It's also not very flush down here. It's probably about a 1/2 inch up in this chamber. And so that's also cutting off a little bit of our light. So I don't love that. I do really enjoy the speed control on this machine. I am kind of tired right now and not really feeling like I have the best control over things, yet I have it turned all the way down so I can just put my foot right in it while I get to know this machine, and I don't feel like there's any danger of this machine just taking off out of nowhere and sucking up my project. That is one thing I really do not enjoy about the Brother PQ machine. It just does not have a lot of foot control at all, and even when you're lightly pressing, sometimes the machine just takes off, and I don't really think that that is very safe. I also don't think that it's very conducive to making an entire bag and not having possible mistakes. I was sewing an entire project on that earlier, and I was doing the top stitching and it just took right off, and I had to pick some of the stitching out. Luckily, it was a cotton woven project, so I was able to not have holes in the project, but had that been vinyl or leather, I would have permanent holes right there in my finished project, right when I was top stitching at the very end, and I would have been very, very disappointed. So I so far am much more impressed by the motor in this machine and its pedal control, and its ability to set our speed. So those are probably the most important features to me, frankly, and so far I'm fairly impressed with it. So let's do a small project now. Let's sew something with lots of layers, with a zipper, with lots of stuff going on, and really see how it actually wants to handle things. I have this partially finished project that I started assembling on my domestic machine quite some time ago, and I'm going to finish it out right now on this machine. It's got marine vinyl. It's also got some fusible fleece. It's got a, not real silk, but a silk lining here. And I'm going to go ahead and see how it handles all of these materials. So we just need to finish boxing out the corners on this pouch, on this marine vinyl, and then finish sewing up all of the side edges on this pouch as well. Let's see how it handles. All right, so we finished up our little sample project. You can see that here. Again, we just had some basic quilt cotton, marine vinyl, kind of the same test I always do. And this machine did perfectly fine on my small test project. So now it's time for my final wrap up and thoughts on this machine, the Juki TL-2010Q. At the start of this unboxing and review video, I had mentioned that I previously reviewed a Brother machine, the Brother PQ1500SL. I noted that there were some definite differences between this machine and that machine, one being the price. This machine is just slightly more expensive than the Brother machine, between $100 and $200 depending on where you buy it from. And it does have a few more features. However, this machine comes with less accessories, and the things that I was initially excited about on this machine didn't end up actually making all that much of a difference in the end while using the machine. There's a few things that I'm just going to point out that are definitely cons in my book, things that, again, I was really excited about and I thought that I would like, but I didn't end up loving. So one thing that I was not very impressed with during my small project was the automatic thread cutter. When you use it, it makes a lot of grinding noises. It's kind of slow. It's very clunky. I found the all-around user experience of that particular feature very unpleasant. I used it 4 or 5 times throughout my project, and then toward the end, I just stopped using it. I really did not enjoy that aspect of it, and I find that the automatic thread cutter on the Brother machine is far superior. Throughout my time using this machine, I did notice that the motor was a little bit buzzy all the time. It's not loud, but there is an underlying hum to it that I didn't necessarily think needed to be there, especially for working on a cotton woven project that just didn't have a lot of bulk going on with it. It was a constant humming noise, which tells me it's just the noise of this particular motor. And while not a problem, for some people that may be not very pleasant to be around. I didn't find it particularly loud. It was just an underlying constant humming noise. Another thing that I was very excited about was the extension table. I noted at the beginning of this video that this extension table had lots of feet, and I thought that that would make it a lot more stable and a lot more comfortable to work with versus the Brother machine that I have previously reviewed. Once I got into using this extension table, I found that that wasn't really the case. Though it has more feet making it more stable, it doesn't actually connect to the body of the machine anywhere. It simply pressure fits around the base of the machine. So if you need to move the machine on your work table to get a more comfortable position or push it back due to the size of your project, it actually makes it kind of a pain. At one point, I had gently pushed the machine back on my table, but because this extension table isn't actually attached to the machine, it pushed forward, came separate from the machine, and popped up and just kind of made a little bit of a mess of things. I didn't love that, especially since I do tend to move my machine closer and further during working on a project. So ultimately, I have to give that some points off. I also did not think that the quality on this door here to access the bobbin was very good. For a machine that's more expensive, I really expected more out of some of these small features, just thinking that they would be a little bit more refined and it would be a better overall user experience. Out of the two semi-industrial machines that I've tested, the Brother machine and this Juki, I really wanted this Juki to be the clear winner out of the two. When we're so close in budget and we're only talking about a couple of $100s, with some extra features on this machine I thought I would like, I really thought that that extra money would be better spent. I was especially excited about the servo-style motor that can be slowed and increased depending on how you're feeling that day, but in the end, it turns out that I think I'll just be saving myself a little bit of money and keeping the Brother machine. I think that this Juki is a fine machine, and if you're looking to upgrade or add to your collection, I definitely think if this is within your budget, right around $1,000, it's definitely worth looking into. But I will add, I think it is also definitely worth looking at the Brother PQ1500SL machine. Out of the two, it's a little bit cheaper, it comes with a lot more accessories, and I think the overall general performance, feel, and user experience of the machine is just a little bit better for just a little bit less money. The last thing I want to mention before we say goodbye is that I am in no way affiliated with Brother or Juki. All of these machines were bought 100% with my own money. I'm not paid, not affiliated, not receiving any kind of compensation for these reviews. I just find it interesting to use a new machine, see what it's like, compare it to others, and just sort of see what's out there. If this review was helpful to you or you enjoyed watching this video, please consider giving my channel a like or a subscribe. Until next time, we will see you in the next video. Make beautiful things. Bye-bye. Hi there, sewing friends. Welcome back to another episode of Emporia. Why am I saying that? It's not an episode.